We witnessed a classic in New York. We now head to Italy for round 2 of the Wave Italy GT Championship and the circuit Autodromo Enzo A. Dino Ferrari, otherwise known as Imola. Whilst the circuit of this Bologna-located circuit has changed half a dozen times in the past 50 years, it remains a flowing and tricky circuit for drivers and a great place to watch motor racing for fans. It was Aaron Powell who took the first blood of the season at Watkins Glen 2 weeks ago, claiming the second race win of his Apex Racing League GT career. But with one of the most competitive Apex Racing League fields in history, there are many drivers hoping to depose him from the top of the championship lead tonight. Whilst we saw an extended 80-minute race last time out, we return to the classic Apex Racing League GT formula tonight, a 25-minute race 1 followed by a 40-minute race 2, with the latter tonight having a reverse grid of 23 places. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Dane Baird joins me in the commentary box. Lee Thompson and Sam Kuma working hard in the background to deliver this terrific broadcast on Apex Racing TV. And also a huge thanks to Andy Taylor, Christian Steenberg and Colin Weatherholt for producing our stunning graphics and video content for the series. And also thanks to Wave Italy, the title sponsor for the Apex Racing League GT Championship. And they are giving prizes to the top drivers in both the pro and the amateur category. Wave Italy's mission to offer the best experience in driving simulation to an ever broader audience, with the aim of conveying the thrill of a real race to casual racers and professionals of esports and sim racing. They offer extremely realistic devices suitable for corporate or private events, and you can also improve your sim racing performance as well. Dane, we saw an absolute classic last time out at Watkins Glen. In the end, it was Aaron Powell who came out on top, but there are at least half a dozen other drivers who can challenge him tonight for the second meeting of the season, and it's a pretty cool host as well for this round of the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a fantastic race at Watkins Glen for the opening round of the season. It went right down to the wire as well, the top four battling throughout the race, and especially in the last 10 to 15 minutes or so after all of the pit stops had made their course. Yeah, loads of drivers challenging for that win. I would say 5 drivers have a very good chance at taking a win around this really tricky circuit here at Imola. And in a moment, we're about to take a look at the circuit in a little bit more detail, shall we? Sam, it's a very tricky circuit, Imola, very fun in my opinion as well, and it starts off with a flat out kink. That is turn 1, but the real fun starts at the Tamburello chicane. Turns 2, 3 and 4, easily the best place for overtaking maneuvers, sure to be the biggest action zone throughout tonight's 2 races. Next up is Villeneuve, the tricky turns 5 and 6, usually single file through here. Any mistakes could allow the driver behind to send it up the inside and to toast at turn 7, long and slow uphill hairpin there. Up the hill then towards Piratella at turn 8. The drivers are going to run way off the circle on the outside to carry as much speed as possible through here. Very lenient with the 1X iRacing at this part of the circuit. Then they'll plunge down the hill into turns 9 and 10, the infamous Acqua Minerale corner. Up the hill towards Variante Alta, the drivers will go next. A very tricky chicane, very tight, with huge curbs on the inside. Drivers will be launching their cars over that. Expect to see at least a couple of them get it slightly wrong and end up facing the wrong way. Finally, the drivers are going to head through the kink at turn 13 before the downhill braking zone at turns 14 and 15 at Ravazza. Possibly the most important corner exit on the circuit here, as the drivers are going to carry that speed all the way down through turn 16 and 17 on the main straight. You can expect to see a lot of drafting down there back into the heavy braking zone at Tamburello once more. The circuit was initially named after the Santerno River, which borders it on the paddock side, and it was renamed to Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari after Enzo Ferrari and his son Dino in 1988. The circuit has 17 corners officially, 9 to the left and 8 to the right, and a lap of the 7th reconfiguration of the circuit since it opened its doors in 1953 will set you back a touch over 3 miles or 4.9 kilometers depending on your units of choice. We're expecting lap times in the range of 1 minute 38 seconds here tonight, a bit slower further back in the AM field perhaps. And interestingly, Sam, none of the drivers on tonight's grid have won a race here at Imola in the Apex Racing League GT Championship 4. So yeah, Sam, it's anyone's guess as to who's going to take top honors here tonight.
Yeah, and like we've said a couple of times, it is such a competitive order this for Season 5 of the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship. And yeah, only visited this place once in the past, McMahon coming out on one of those races. So really could be anyone's game, and of course many cars as well available for the drivers tonight, and really a number of them should be fairly competitive around this Imola circuit. The BMW Dane, perhaps the strongest car down the straights, and I think with the reverse grid for tonight, that straight line speed could be really useful, because it's all well and good being fast. If you can't overtake with the reverse grid, then you can't really do a whole lot with that.
Yeah, it also helps defend as well, as we saw at Watkins Glen down the back straight out of the S's. Some of the other cars, especially the Corvettes and the Porsches, were really finding it difficult to overtake the BMW down into the main braking zone, into the bus stop chicane at Watkins Glen. I think they might struggle again tonight if the drivers are running a bit more downforce than the driver ahead, especially if they're in the BMW, because it has that straight line speed advantage. Into Tamburello might be a little bit more tricky than it might otherwise be, and of course, being in the BMW, have a bit of an extra advantage heading into there if you're trying to overtake the driver in front. So as you said, with the reverse grid, quite a large one as well, 23 places are getting reversed. It's going to give them a big advantage in the BMW, but you have to be quick in the BMW to be able to make use of that advantage. It's all well and good having that advantage. If you're not a quick enough driver to make use of it, it's not really much of a point in driving in the BMW. So you see a lot of the drivers choosing whichever car they prefer, because the cars are all pretty even out there overall.
Yeah, and iRacing done a fairly good job of that, really. Whichever car you decide to choose, you should be fairly competitive in this series, but certainly each one with their strengths and advantages. And we really should see that ebb and flow as the season goes on, as I believe you can see pictures of the circuit. And qualifying, currently the drivers are in at the moment. We've just got a couple more minutes to go. The drivers have to complete their lap time before the timer runs out in order to set an eligible lap time. And well, at the moment, Dane, it's looking pretty good as well for Aaron Powell. I honestly thought that maybe it would be the case a couple of seasons ago where he absolutely excelled at Watkins Glen, but wasn't able to carry that momentum through the rest of the championship. But in the early stages right now, he is on provisional pole, but still time for the others to improve, and it is super close out in the lead.
Absolutely. Championship standings up on the screen now, and you can see Powell after that win at Watkins Glen. 140 points, the maximum that you can get from a single round here in the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship. He's right up there at the top, as you'd expect, after just one round in the championship, and then you can see a couple more drivers making their way through the championship order. Logitech G Autos eSports driver, the 199 of Michael Neumeier. Huge surprise from him when he had that pit strategy at Watkins Glen. Yeah, he really came out of nowhere. I was 5 seconds behind for most of the race, and then after the pits he came into the lead. Just about couldn't hold off Aaron Powell for the end there. Daniele in fourth. He just missed out on the win. Those top four all fighting for the win of the race in the last couple of laps. He only just missed out, but loads of drivers in the championship, and it's only round one of a very long season that we've had so far, so this could look very different by the end. Chris Van Nesse, he's currently leading the AM Championship standings there, only by 4 points though over Derek Adrianson. So yeah, lots of points still to play for here at Imola, and yeah, that could look extremely different after tonight alone, never mind another few rounds of the season.
Yeah, and it was double points as well for the first meeting of the championship, so a really good start for Powell and the other drivers who could score big points. But yeah, still 11 more meetings to go. Anyone who saw any of last season of this championship just knows how volatile the standings can be as we progress along. The qualifying has ended for this qualifying session, and so the drivers are starting to line up on the grid. And it is Aaron Powell who takes pole position. I don't believe he even took pole position back at Watkins Glen. In fact, he had to gain quite a few places off the start. But well, he's really come to Imola in good form, and he does take that pole position. Nicholas Laubich, we didn't even expect to be racing tonight. An hour before the practice session went up, he was rolling himself out, but he certainly made an impression. He's up on the front row. Then it's James Crouch, who's very quick back at Watkins Glen. Michael Neumeier, Matt Chambers, Vin Glenn, Stephen Broomfield, Max Bandian in 8th place, Emil Vinbo, and Mark Hutchinson rounding out the top 10. Drew Becker had a brilliant qualifying back at Watkins Glen as well. He starts in 11th place. Hopefully things go a bit better for him tonight. Kevin Kitzelman lies up in 12th. Then it's Danny Lee, who has a poor qualifying down there, 8/10 off the pole position. And Chris Van Der Nesse lining up in 14th. Then it's Derek Adjinsons, Luke Rogers, Stefan Schlacker, Tom Bingham, Chris Prescott, Craig Jones, Steve Burke, David Bush, Tom Collins, Dave Chadwick, David Gowrie, Elliot Barenberg, John Chester, Miguel Beltran, Regis Clark, James Koulibaly, Justin Rame, Jack Tingy, Vadim Pedrov starting in 33rd place. And it's Thomas Abens, Christian Engelhardt, Vincenzo Tiomina, Nikolai Thrain, Colin McKenzie, and Jensen Adjinsons. Was the last show to set a lap time a bit. That lap time from Adjinsons was far from representative. Tom Brown, Nicholas Matthews, and Dominic Linden. Not setting qualifying times, and no, Tom Brown will need to will need to start from the pits for this first race of the evening after a penalty he picked up last time out. So it's a short pace up around this Imola circuit, and we are about to get the second race of the season underway. Ampel puts his foot on the floor, and we are away racing for 25 minutes of action at Imola. Dropping a little bit far back at the moment as we head into turn 1 for the first time.
A bit of door banging there as some cars are off in the background, but Neumeier and Laubich, I think, a little bit of door banging between those two, heading through Tamburello for the first time. There's a couple cars stopped on the circuit, a couple cars taken to the runoff area. That's Emil Vinbo and Chambers in the BMW and Corvette. Those two have found themselves in an instant out of the Tamburello chicane, and both of those look to have some serious damage, and there's more incident between Vinbo and another one of the Evo SR cars. Aaron Powell still leads out in front. We've got Crouch just behind them, the Evo SR teammates, and Laubich in 3rd and Neumeier in 4th, just lurking behind, waiting to pounce. But as they head through Minerali for the first time, mostly single file in the top 10.
Great start for Mark Hutchinson with the 3 places gained. Van Der Nesse up for Becker, still at the head of the amateur category at the moment. So just Schlacker, in fact, actually making that move past. So rattle through the chicanes for the first time in the race. Still super close out in the lead. Everyone's still within the draft. And we really do start to find out what the overtaking opportunities are in each of these cars around this Imola circuit.
This is probably where we're going to see one of them down the main straight into Tamburello through turns 16 and then 17, and the Porsche dropping back from Crouch in the Corvette just in front, so that might be a bit of setup playing into a account here, because yeah, really dropping back, which is not something you usually see when a car's in the draft. But look how much he's caught up in the corners. That could really help him, but defending might be a problem for Laubich throughout these 2 races.
And something that Laubich was doing massively last time out was lifting and coasting for the first stint. There's no point in doing that. There's no pit stops, as he's gone for the dive into Tosa, and that is an excellent move there from Nicholas Laubich. So he's back up into 2nd place, and I think Michael Neumeier might be taking advantage of this as well. They're so close to one another. If you go offline for just a moment, you're going to be attacked into the next corner. And look at Crouch, he almost came back at Laubich there. Really a contrast in the straight line speeds between these drivers, but Laubich has the speed through the corners to make up for that deficit down straights, and Neumeier a little bit shaky going through Aqua Minerale, but he should have the straight line speed to hold off Glenn, and you can see he's dropping back a little bit as well. This has invited Broomfield into the battle as Neumeier has to skip the chicane. He's going to get a huge slowdown for that one. Now you can serve quite a bit of it on the brakes into the final couple of corners, but that's not ideal for Neumeier, and his chances of a podium surely coming to an end in this race 1.
Yeah, that was not great for him. I think there might have been a tap from behind involved in that one. So I'm not too sure of that. We might have to get a replay of it. A little bit loose on the brakes is the 211 BMW Centurion Racing Team driver of David Gowrie. He's got Emil Vimbo just behind for Kairos competition. Danny Lee down in 28th at the moment for him. And he's lost 16 places from where he started in the race so far. So yeah, he was really quick at Watkins Glen, so you'd expect him to be pretty quick here at Imola as well. He was saying that Imola is not his favourite circuit on the calendar by any means, so maybe that might have something to do with where he is as well, not up at the front, that's for sure. But yeah, good start for the two EVSR Corvettes of Powell and Crouch though.
Yeah, I think Crouch got back past Laubich down the front straight, if I'm getting that correct. So I'm not sure if that was maybe a slowdown for Laubich, or maybe just Crouch has got that pace to really rival him. So yeah, an EVSR 1-2 have got their fair share of wins with Tom McMahon over the years, of course, in this championship, but they are currently representing the team very well, are those two former race winners. Top 3 in the amateur category, by the way, Drew Becker, who's got 2 cars between himself and Chris Prescott. Steve Burke running in 3rd position in that category, and it's Darren Atkinson's Craig Jones and Tom Bingham rounding out the top 7. See there, Van der Nesse, a championship leader in the amateur category. We know that this one is going to really not be dominated by any one driver. That's what we're become accustomed to on Apex Racing TV with these amateur divisions. Usually the advantage hands to a different driver on each round of the championship. As here is Chris Prescott under a bit of pressure from his teammate Steve Burke, and we often see this, Burke not the best qualified, Dane. Usually in the races he's got the pace to overhaul his teammates, as we're about to get a replay of a lap 1 incident.
Yeah, let's have a look then and see what's happened here. In the Autosport apparently having a very unlucky evening here. They go through Villeneuve and oh dear, bit of contact with one of their drivers up in front, and then that driver spinning and taking out another one of their drivers in the Porsche. Lots of Indy Autosport Porsches, and now Tom Brown's going to come through here. Oh, and trying to make his way through the mess of his teammates in front. So all 3 of the drivers being held up by that single incident after turn 6 at Villeneuve. Back live looking at Stephen Brumfield now, and you can see him and his VR setup on the webcam.
Yeah, and you can see a very ominous BMW as well just behind him in the form of Michael Neumeier, who would have been hoping that he'd be much further up the order, but that little bit of contact we believe it was heading into this Variante Alta. Although look at the curve he can take, and that's another advantage of the BMW potentially. It seemed at least for Neumeier at Watkins Glen that he could really take the curves well at the bus stop chicane. That's what I saw at least. I mean, that might just be a personal thing that he's particularly good at. That might be an advantage of the BMW machine. As we got Nikolai Thrain just getting past, apologies, that was him behind Tom Brown, who is storming up the order. Brown starting from the pits, but he's now 11 places from his start. So great work from him, and of course it is a reverse grid of 23 places, so he just needs to gain a few more places and he could be on reverse grid pole.
Yep, that would put him in a great position for race 2. You know, he's pretty quick, is Tom Brown. Looking back, he's already started to make a gap between himself and Thrain in 29th, but looking in front of him, it might not be so easy to start making more positions up as the field starts to spread out in front of him. You can see 23rd position of Engelhardt is around about 5 or 6 seconds up the road, so he's got his work cut out for him with 17-18 minutes left in the race, but definitely doable. And oh dear, something has happened up into, well, that's turn 8, and Bandian's found himself spinning around the wrong direction. Oh no!
Crouch and Laubich. What has happened to 2nd and 3rd place? They were very close every lap. Laubich was going really close into Avatsa and then dropping back down the pit straight. and I wonder if maybe Crouch has had his own incident and taken Nalbish out with him. Earlier on in the lap, it seemed like Broomfield was actually dropping back. He dropped down to 7th place, I believe, and I think he was the one who may have collided with Bandian. So a very hectic lap there at the front of the order. As we're going to get a little bit of a replay of what happened just then, but all change in that top 10. Some heavy hitters in the championship as well.
So just heading into Aqua Minerale. Oh, they both spun. No contact at all. Lalbish hit the grass and Crouch just got a little bit sideways under braking into the corner. Crouch caught it. Lalbish ended up spinning sideways off into the runoff area and carried on going. So no damage to either of the cars. Both of them just spinning all on their own. Maybe Crouch put off Lalbish slightly by making that error under braking, but as I said, the car really does want to swap ends through there, and now he's being Crouch is being passed by Neumeier for 3rd position. So yeah, a bit shaken up maybe after that, but they're totally separate incidents for them, really. Very interesting.
It's anyone who's ever driven this track on this simulator or any other simulator or game, or for that matter, knows how tricky Aqua Minerale is. Really got to commit. You've got to open up the entry for the second part of the corner and then get a real nice exit. Don't run too wide as well on the exit, otherwise you can get yourself a slowdown. And yep, just falling for the same issue right there. So Neumeier then up into 3rd place. How things have changed quickly for himself. And even Broomfield's looking pretty close now onto the back of Crouch, who is under big pressure at the moment. And also Jude Becker up into 6th position. And he had an absolute terrible time of it last time out there. And he's probably my favourite for the Amateur Championship, and his qualifying performances have certainly backed that up. This is astonishing. So early on in the season for an amateur driver to be running up in 6th. Very rare that we see this.
Yep, he's got slightly lucky with some incidents, as you can see. Lalbish just behind, now gaining on him. Flash of the headlights, and he's going to lift off and let him through. So a kind amateur driver is Jude Becker, not wanting to fight too much. He's in an absolutely fantastic position in the amateur class at the moment, leading with 3 pro cars behind him. There's no need to fight with Lalbish and lose some of that advantage in terms of time. Look at the time that he's got on Prescott, 9 seconds is the gap between himself and the next AM driver. So really good position for Becker at the moment, as they're going all sorts of side by side through Tosa now between the 3 drivers in 3rd, 4th and 5th, Neumeier, Crouch and Brumfield. Interestingly, all 5 car manufacturers being represented in the top 8 drivers.
That is what we want to see. So Crouch must have got at least alongside Neumeier again. I keep on building out Crouch thinking that he's going to start dropping back, but then he comes back for more. Oh, Broomfield much faster. In fact, well, Crouch was almost off the circuit there. Again, that's slowdown. I don't think we've seen anyone pick it up, but it is a danger. If you run it too far, the curves around this place, on the most part, really not very significant. That one barely exists. It's very much just paint out on the circuit, but the drivers, after doing hundreds of laps around this place, know where just to push it. And Broomfield not close enough for a move. It's just try and get as close around this part of the track, and then the long stretch up to turn 1 again all around the drivers. Glenn a little bit ahead of these guys at the moment, so he's looking all good. And Broomfield, despite being in the draft, once again that gap increasing, as you can see on the battle box in the bottom right corner. And that is Crouch just must not be running a rear wing tonight, Dane, because he gained about half a second down the pit straight on the car ahead.
Yeah, he's definitely running a low downforce trim, that's safe to say. Very safe to say, in fact. And now we're going to see side-by-side action in towards Tamburello at turn 2. Yes, we are. And that is Bush getting overtaken by Chris Van Den Esse. Oh, and there's a spinner behind. It's Burke for Team Lizard Motorsport, and he's going to drop back quite a bit in the 223, rejoin onto the inside of the circuit, and cause a bit of trouble for the drivers trying to lap him behind. Doesn't look like he's got much damage from that. Maybe a bit of floor damage from hitting those curbs on the inside of the corner at Tamburello. Those killer curbs that you've got here at Villeneuve as well. Oh, this is back at Tamburello, a bit further back in the field, but yeah, an interesting spin there, and allowed a couple drivers to gain a position.
Yeah, he was running up in, I believe, third position in the amateur category as well. So some important points. Third place as well in the third place in the championship last season as well was Steve Burke. So he is looking for that title, one of the favourites, along with Drew Becker. That is not the type of result that he needs. This is quite a queue at the moment going on behind Bush, half a second ahead of Jones. On that last lap, pretty much matched him. Ooh, as I see a puff of smoke. Jones off the track, and Vinbo.
Yeah, it looked like Vinbo just maybe a bit too deep on the brakes, tried to pull to the inside a bit later and didn't manage to do so. Clipped the rear quarter panel of Craig Jones and sent him off into the gravel on the outside. Vinbo also missed the corner too, so it's like just Vinbo out-braking himself there and unfortunately taking Jones with him, as we see side by side between Adriansons and Prescott, both of them in the RSR, and Prescott down in 12th now for Team Blizzard Motorsport into Villeneuve. The Porsche, very different characteristics to the BMW. It's very skittish, and you can't take as much of the curbs as you could in the BMW. That's why we see the BMW taking all of the curb at Alta. The Porsche drivers will probably still do it, but they'll have a bit of a tougher time trying to keep the car going in the direction that they want it to.
And so second place for Adjinson's game, past a couple of Team Lizard cars, nice and quick. And I can see Darren back going well because he's had a miserable couple of months on Apex Racing League, as well as I've seen in the GT Championship, as Michael Schlacker just had a bit of an issue. Oh, there's Bandia into the wall. Well, seemed to be in the wall. He's already had an off. Still only in the top 10, just showing how quick this Touring Racing team driver has been. But yeah, Darren Adjinsons, who is now right behind him. Rubbish results really in the Formula 3 Championship and the GT Championship, not down to his fault either. Just incidents galore, it seems, with incidents with other drivers, but really running up where he should be tonight. Elliot Barenberg now being overtaken by Tom Brown, who is one place away from reverse grid pole day.
Yep, but that one place is 3 seconds ahead.
Albish.
Oh dear, oh, that's a lot of damage as well. And we're being told it's contact with Brumfield, so we'll definitely have to get a replay of what happened to the Irano eSports driver. But he has a lot of damage to the front of that Porsche RSR. A little bit of rear damage there as well. And there is some damage to the Indy Autosport driver of Becker as well, leading the AM class. Let's have a replay. Let's see what has happened. Brumfield in front, getting flashed from Labish behind. Labish flashing a lot of drivers in the race so far. Pulls to the outside now, trying to go all the way around the outside at Tamburello, side by side through turn 2, runs over the curbs. Oh, no contact at all with Brumfield, side by side with him. Ran a little bit too wide, hit the curbs, and sent himself into the wall on the inside. So looks like a driver error from Labish. Maybe thought there was a little bit less space on his inside than there actually was, and unfortunately he's down to 9th.
Well, Labish is going to have some practice at overtaking for race 2 at least, because he made this one very tricky for himself. Maybe the first instant, well, the first instant because he ran wide, didn't he, at Aqua Minerale, and then that one was kind of his fault as well, going for an ambitious move. Still running though with some decent points, and of course the lower down you finish is the high start in race 2. I'm sure that's not what's going on in Nikos Laubish's head at the moment. Of course, the defending champion. Famously took that couple of race wins at Long Beach last season to clinch the title, as Chris van der Nesse is moving ahead of Chris Prescott. So van der Nesse not necessarily qualifying great, but he has kept his car clean, unlike many of his amateur rivals, and he's very quietly gone up to 3rd position in the amateur category. Just a reminder as well that the drivers do score points for their overall positions, not their class position, but beating an amateur driver is particularly satisfying because you're taking points off them along with gaining points for yourself, as Nikos Labish has made another overtake, so he's past Schlacker, and there's still time, maybe, to pass McCutcheon and Becker up the road.
Yeah, possibly, but there's only 7 minutes left in this race number 1. He'll have his work cut out for him. A little bit loose through the Aqua Minerale again for the Iran eSports driver. They're almost going side by side in front of him with Hutchinson and Becker. Look how close he is to Becker now. He's going to be hoping that Becker does the same thing he did a few laps ago, a few moments ago, when Laubish last came up to the rear of him up into Tamburello, just letting him past. I wonder if he's going to do the same thing again, because nearer to the end of the race, Becker might think he has a better opportunity at keeping the points he currently has, but he pulls to the left-hand side and lets him through. So, yeah, being the nice guy once again is the Autosport driver. Now down to 8th. Is he going to let the driver behind through as well? Yes, he is. So down to 9th, but still with that very lengthy lead over the next AM driver behind.
Yeah, that is that's very sensible driving there from Drew. Still good points, I guess, and with still a decent amount of the race to go. You feel like he couldn't hold them off, but still his pace was very strong. I think he would have stood a chance, but playing the long game perhaps. Avanzini is right on the tail of David Bush at the moment, and also Emil Vinbo on his comeback. So maybe not with too much damage, Vinbo. You can see some damage on that BMW, but his lap times don't really back up that. He was a second faster than these drivers on the last tour round. Was the Swedish driver for past competition, so he is coming back thick and fast. And I can also say 23rd place, which is the reverse grid for race 2, occupied by Tom Brown. So Brown from the pit lane, he's got into that crucial 23rd position. And just as a little bit of an omen, Dane, he did win race 2 of meeting 2 last season as well, with Tom Brown in with the reverse grid. So the omens are good for him.
Oh, that's maybe a bit of a stretch, but he'll be hoping that that's going to be accurate for him for this season as well. Would be good to see him. And despite the penalty, he's done a fantastic job of making his way up through the field. Another person doing a fantastic job is Aaron Powell. You didn't give him a chance before we went live, Sam. You said it was just that he was good at Watkins Glen. He won't be.
It was
maybe
not fair.
Even
it doesn't
be
count.
on the podium for this round, but he's 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds out in front as Laubish and Hutchinson. Oh no, have they made some contact there? Hutchinson now dropping all the way back, and you can see him there in the forward in the background of that shot. So Laubish really having to defend now. He's got Schlacker all over him. Now trying to go up the inside into Tosa, maybe no. Becker's getting involved as well. No more Mr. Nice Guy for him. He said, well, 4 minutes left in the race. If you're going to open the door for me, I'm going to take it.
So seemingly it was the same place for Laubish as last time, but on this occasion he actually gave a bit of a tap to Hutchinson. So what a crazy 20 minutes for Nicholas Laubish. I mean, Watkins Glen was maybe a little bit of a duller race for him. Really, after the first 10 minutes, he kind of just toured away, and it got exciting for him at the end. This 25-minute race 1 is a season's worth of action, honestly, and still he's running up in 6th position, which is simply remarkable. As Emil Vinbo is going for an overtake at a very unusual place, and that's why you don't overtake at that corner, because it's so narrow you can't run side by side. And Vinbo needs to try to get back going so he can get reverse grid pole. Fortunately for him, he's actually got a big gap back. It's Steve Burke who's occupying reverse grid pole at the moment, and he is 20 seconds back. So Vinbo has plenty of time to turn that car around.
I missed what happened on there, but over the curbs into Variante Alta. Massive curbs there. They're just as big as these ones that you see here at Tamburello, but for whatever reason, the drivers are able to launch it over those curbs at Alta. Many times, if you see a slow motion shot of the drivers through that chicane, they'll end up all 4 wheels off the ground. I, for one, I'm not brave enough to do that. I almost always end up spinning, so I just take the safe route and take a little bit of curb. The red and white ones, they're good enough for me. I'll lose a bit of time there, but I won't spin, so it's all good. Schlacker's doing a brilliant job. Up into 7th at the moment. He's got Becker just behind, who is now trying to actively make a move past him. with just 2 minutes left in this race. Schlacker started 17th in the race. He started 10 positions behind where he is now. So a really, really good showing from him in this race. And Gowrie trying hard not to slam into the back of Petrov in front of him as they make their way through Tamburello.
Yeah, that was awfully close there. Such a satisfying part of the circuit. That's of course been changed quite a bit as this track. Very much the start of the lap used to be very different, but it still just flows brilliantly. Not necessarily great for when you're going side by side. It's very narrow through those chicanes and very high speed as well. But to drive when you're really in the, you've only got the car set up correctly, it is an absolute joy. White flag is out the final lap of the race. In fact, actually, I think it'll be fairly close. It might be another one after that, so we'll see if Powell does make it round in time. Schlacker is under pressure from Becker, who gave up that position, remember, earlier on. I wonder if he's regretting that a bit now, because he suddenly realised that actually he's just as quick, maybe even quicker than Schlacker. And he's now got to try to make that move. Hutchinson getting himself back in play, Bandun getting himself back in play, and Bush has just got past Prescott as well. Oh no, Lee's round.
No,
Lee's still going.
Someone around there. Avanzini. They were going side by side through Tamburello, and Avanzini's ended up facing the wrong way. And now they're going to go too wide just behind him. And it's like Engelhardt has made a move up the inside of Bingham into Villeneuve. Then he able to just keep that 15th position for now. But yeah, I wonder what happened between those two. We just cut to them at just the wrong or the right moment, depending on how you want to look at it.
20 seconds more to go on the clock, and we've got 1/5 of the lap remaining for Aaron Powell. I don't think we're going to get another lap in here, and I don't think he wants another lap, honestly, does Aaron Powell. But it will be pretty much up to the iRacing system to decide. It is the checkered flag, and it is a second race win of the season for Aaron Powell, who wins for Evo SR. Ving Glenn with a superb second place. Michael Newmar was very close in the closing stages, but he rounds out the podium. Crouch, Broomfield and Laubich round out the top 6, and it will be Drew Becker to get a well-deserved amateur win. Couldn't quite beat Schlacker, but he did beat Hutchinson and does gain, I'm sure, many places in the championship. We are still going for a reverse grid pole at the moment. Barenberg currently occupies it. It's a 23-car reverse. But Nikolai Thrain, the pro driver, still has an opportunity to come back. He was much faster on that last tour round. Brown with a superb drive up through the order. And it looks as though Barenberg is going to be able to hold on for that pole position for race 2.
Yep, a couple drivers making their way down into the pits at the moment, which is odd. Yeah, no one has already finished the race and is just heading into the pits whilst the other drivers finish. So interesting that some of the drivers making their way into the pits may be a penalty.
Yeah, perhaps so. Try and serve it right at the end of the race. We're going to show you an advert now for Apex Racing Academy before we go through the results and, of course, enter race 2 of the evening. So we'll be back with you in just a moment on Apex Racing TV. Thanks to Apex Racing Academy, who are providing some of the prizes for this championship. Apex Racing Academy providing 29 data packs, that's setups and track guides, weekly group coaching sessions for 29 different cars, and the setups and all the tutorials follow the official series. So it's all relevant stuff that can really improve your performance in iRacing. Got some of the best coaches in iRacing as well, World Championship drivers such as Peter Bayman, Kevin Ellis, and plenty of others. So big thanks to them for sponsoring the championship. And I think we've got the results from race 1, as the drivers have all crossed the line now, and is a second race win of the season for Aaron Powell. Vin Glenn with what I believe is his best result in Apex Racing League history, so congrats to him in second place. Michael Newmeyer had some setbacks early on. He picked up a slowdown after all. You wouldn't have guessed it. He was storming at the end, finishing in third place. James Crouch in the end fell back slightly, but still showed pretty good pace, only 5 seconds off the lead in fourth. Stephen Broomfield was in fifth. Nicholas Dalbish had a very frustrating race, but in the end 6th place is a pretty good result considering all of that. Stefan Schlacker finishes in 7th. Then it was the amateur race winner Drew Becker in 8th. Mark Hutchinson rounds out the top 9. Then it's Max Bandian, despite a couple of spins, finishing in 10th. Darragh Adjinsons kept it stable and just about held off Chris van der Nesse, who came on very strong in the second half of the race in 12th. David Bush, Chris Prescott and Danny Lee rounding out the top 15. Poor race for Danny there with early setbacks. Tom Bingham, Christian Engelhardt and Craig Jones round out the top 8. Jones' first race of the season there, and Tom Brown from the pit lane finishing in 19th place, a storming drive from him. Thomas Avanzini had an incident with Lee near the end, so ended up in 20th. Steve Burke also had an incident, albeit that was by himself, if I recall correctly, in 21st. Then it was Jensen Adjinsons who started from the back as well. Elliot Barenberg takes reverse grid pole with that 23rd place. It was Nikolai Thrain who just missed out. Over a minute down was Colin McKenzie, Jack Tingy, James Koulibaly, David Gary, Vadim Pedrov, Nicholas Matthews, Dave Chadwick and Miguel Batran. Also Regis Clark, Dominic Linden, Tom Collins also finished 1 lap down. Emil Vinbo, it will not score points. He was 3 laps down despite running very well in the early stages. He will not score points because he was 3 laps down, and so too won't score points will be Luke Rogers, John Chessida, Vincenzo Tiamina, Matt Chambers, Justin Rame and Kevin Kittelman. So I thought we saw quite a bit of overtaking there, honestly, Dane, in that race 1. So potentially we could see some of the front runners coming through once again this time round, and yeah, so it could be a good opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fairly easy circuit to overtake at, I want to say, because you have that really good opportunity into Tamburello. Although it is slightly easier than most overtaking opportunities to defend. You can defend pretty well there. So it's going to be a challenge for the drivers that ended up in the reverse grid, near the back of that reverse grid. But for the drivers out in front, starting in first, second, third, and so on, it's going to be an opportunity for them to try and gain a bunch of points over their competitors, especially drivers at the very front of the reverse grid. They're going to be gaining 23 positions or so on the drivers that they were battling in the race just behind them. So really good opportunities for some of the AM drivers especially to gain a few points.
Definitely, yeah, this is really where you can load up on those points, get a couple of astounding results. We saw that with Becker winning at Spa last season, for example. This series is the touch sponsor for this championship is Wave Italy, and they are providing some absolutely amazing prizes for the top drivers in both the professional and the amateur championships for this season. Wave Italy provide the most comprehensive simulator driving in the world, with and also design their own peripherals as well, using real track data to specifically produce wheels and pedals that recreate a real-life driving experience. And for the amateur drivers, they get a half-day coaching in the Wave Italy driver coaching base in Verona, and for the professional drivers, they get a choice of pedals as well, which really are the absolute place to go if you want to recreate that real life driving feeling. The warm-up is over, the 5-minute warm-up, the cool-down as it will be for many drivers. And the drivers will once again start to grid up. It's quite a short turnaround for them before getting back underway, all super close to one another. And yeah, Dane, this race with some of the front runners that we've got out here: Bamberg, Adriansons, Burke, Avanzini, Brown, Jones, going through the order. There's some pretty competitive drivers who could perhaps provide a shock. Also, of course, some of Tom Brown, probably maybe the favourite for this one, because he gained so many places in race 1.
Yeah, lots of drivers that could maybe take away that we wouldn't expect. So yeah, really good action coming up for the second of the 2 races. 40 minutes of action up ahead. And if you do enjoy watching sim racing, which basically everyone watching this will, make sure to subscribe to Apex Racing TV before we get this race started, as we've got so much live action coming up over the next few weeks, and hit the notification bell so you never miss one of our broadcasts. Also check us out on Twitch as well. You've got a lower latency broadcast there, so if you do follow along with the live timing, you can get at apexracingtv.com. then you have a bit of a better experience there, because everything will be a little bit more synced up. So let's get ready for race number 2.
Yep, we are about to get underway. It's Barenberg from the pole position for the first time. He is going to round the final corner, and we are away racing for the 40-minute race 2 of the evening. And it's Barenberg who leads Adriansons. Avanzini with a strong start. Engelhardt as well, gaining a couple of places. It's going to be side by side heading into turn 1 for the first time. Really bold from Jensen Adriansons. He's going to scoop around the outside there and takes the lead right at the start. We've got a spin, and that could cause problems for the drivers just behind, because that was skating across to turn 3. But fortunately, they went wide rather than being stuck on the track. So that was Engelhardt and Avanzini, I believe, getting involved in that collision. And they dropped well down the order after those fantastic grid positions. But Adriansons and Bamberg getting away clear, unlike many of the other front runners, and they got a very strong lead earlier.
I spotted 5 drivers off into the gravel out of turn 4 on the outside there after turn 4. So really not the cleanest start in the world, but some of the drivers making up a bunch of positions. Neumeyer's all the way up at the 15th already. At the start of this race, a couple other drivers making their way through the field pretty nicely as well. And we're riding on board with Engelhardt. Yeah, he's not doing particularly well. Minus 11 places for him, unfortunately, in the Ferrari for Zero Force Racing. Oh no, we've got a pile up at Variante Alta. Oh dear, and he's managed to pick up Prescott, and those two seem to be connected for a second. They've got to wait, just wait for everyone to go past. Don't try and rejoin into the traffic, and he has. And he's taken out somebody else as well, potentially Tressida. Someone has slammed into the side of him, just a bit too impatient, trying to get back onto the circuit. And they're side by side now, some of the damaged cars.
It may have been Clark who got the worst of that. But no, that caused absolute chaos there. And we were lucky not to have a pile-up at turn 3. We sure did have a pile-up at the Variante Alta there. We're running on board with James Crouch at the moment, trying to get past Stephen Broomfield. Neumeier also in there as well. And Crouch might lose a position after trying to gain a place. That it could be very important. 2 of the most competitive drivers seemingly in race 1. And Neumeier could get past here. That could be absolutely essential for the top positions later on. He is passed, and that's an excellent move. So in the overall lead, it's currently Adriansons, Jensen Adriansons, Tom Brown and Danny Lee leading the way. And in the amateurs, it's Craig Jones, Tom Bingham and Adriansons at the moment, as we've got more action going on at Tosa.
I don't know what's happening here. So many drivers going side by side into Tosa. Bandian sending it up the inside, unknowingly, to Finn Glenn, who got half turned around and then turned back the right way again with double contact between himself and the Ferrari. And really weird stuff happening there through Tosa. All the drivers getting involved with everybody. And oh dear, oh, there's a car upside down outside of Aqua Minerale. What on earth has happened there? That's a really weird place for cars to end up as well, on the inside of that corner. So I'd love to have a replay of what happened there, but can have a look at Tom Bingham up in 6th. He's really gaining those places.
Yeah, he's up 2 places at the moment. Seeing that he's been overtaken by a couple of pro drivers, he's done very well to gain those couple of places so far. However, question how long he can hold on to them. Super close between Jones and Bush heading into turn 1. It's super close as well between Hutchinson and Adjunson. This is the Dara variety. His brother Jensen doing terrifically well. Out still in the lead at the moment for Indy Autosport. There was an Evo SR 1-2 in the early stages actually of race 1. It's an Indy Autosport 1-2 at the early stages of race 2. And this is Schlacker now going on the attack on Hutchinson. So a poor couple of corners there for the Evo SR driver. And he is going to drop that place, it seems.
Right, let's have a look at what happened into Agua Minerale. Like, I really am interested to see what happened here. Oh, a spinner. Someone's gone off, and oh, weird iRacing physics is what happened there. The wheels collided at the most awkward of angles as Rem was side by side with the spinning car. I believe it might have been Regis Clark, but not too sure exactly who was involved in that one. But yeah, Rem getting flipped off into the outside wall at a rate of knots. And we're getting live pictures now from Stephen Brumfield on board through Alta. He went now down in towards Ravazza. They will go. And yeah, just backing off on the brakes. Not going to send up the inside. There's no real need to overtake into turn 14 at Ravazza because you've got this long, lovely stretch of road down in towards Tamburello that you can use instead. And if you try and make a move into Ravazza, you're probably just going to get overtaken back.
Yeah. You're probably going to be overtaken by a couple of other drivers as well, so yeah, it's really not worth the risk whatsoever. Bush is past Jones then, so that one was coming. Let's see what pace David now has. It seemed like the two of them were fairly evenly matched in race 1, so I don't expect Bush to start pulling away too much. I think I'm still holding back Adjunson, but this is turning into a bit of a queue now. Bingham really chopping across. They got a bit too much curb. It's left them vulnerable. Time to go defensive. This is really going to slow them up. And Adjunson knows he's got to get past Bingham here, otherwise it's just a matter of time until he gets overtaken by the other drivers. And in fact, that time seems to be now because it's Stefan Schlacker who is going the long way round into Piratella. Adjunson's doing great work there to hold on to that position and stay in 7th place. Still Schlacker with part of his car alongside. Adjunson's nearly dipping a wheel onto the grass. That would have been Curtin's if he had done. But he holds on and the queue just keeps on growing.
Oh, a little bit of a look down the inside into Alta, then pulls back, which is a smart move. Oh dear, we've got cars going off again at Alta. One of the Ferraris for Centurion Racing, I believe it was Brumfield, had to take the shortcut there and got a hefty slowdown. It might have been one of his teammates of Bandia, but I think he's a bit too far back, so Brumfield somehow avoiding the slowdown penalty. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but he did definitely cut over the grass. You can see the tyre tracks as we take a look at some of the AM class drivers just a bit further back in the field.
Yeah, and Clark was one of the drivers who of course got involved in an incident earlier on, so he's just on the comeback trail there as Hutchinson trying to take this position back then from Schlacker. He's been battling throughout the race. They got 40 odd other drivers to battle, but they're happy just battling one another at the moment. Amanda Nesse, who was very quick in race 1, wasn't a good qualifying for him, but did have good pace in that opening race of the evening. He is right on their tail as well. Some of the top drivers from race 1, I'm a little bit surprised they haven't got further up the order, honestly, so far, Dane, because we've got Michael Newmeyer in 12th position at the moment. We've got James Crouch only in 14th. Matt Chambers down in 18th at the moment. They haven't really made the progress I thought, and I think that's due partially to incidents because Aaron Powell, for example, has only gained 1 place. That's something must have gone on with him.
Yep, for sure. Incidents playing a big role in that. They're trying to go side by side into Alta. That's never, ever going to work. That looks like Jones and Adrianson's going side by side there, and they're still side by side now into Ravazza. Remember what I just said about overtaking to Ravazza? It doesn't usually end well into Tamburello. They're still side by side, and now just about the SDCR
Someone must.
gets forced wide. I don't think they did get a slowdown. I think they just slowed themselves down by running side by side. Look at that train of cars heading down through turn 16 and 17 now. And yeah, huge train of cars there, and it looks like some of them are going to try and make some moves into Tamburello. Looks like Finglin into the pits at the moment, and oh, Neumeier, he's made his move, and he's now up into 11th. He's got the AM driver of Chris van der Nesse up in 10th at the moment, just in front of him. Looks like some of the drivers, some of the pro drivers in the lower ends, just outside of the top 10, getting a bit racy now.
Yeah, they're trying to make up some places. Nikolai Thrain, I think, is catching up to this, as there goes Hutchinson.
Oh no!
I think that's another place for him. Now, I think there was some contact between the two. I really expected a quarter panel there, but Hutchinson is in 8th position. I think that was a move on Craig Jones, who drops down to 10th position after all of that, and now he's got Neumeier, Broomfield and Crouch all on his tail. Certainly do not envy that position. So McHutchinson and Shaka can start to move forwards a little bit now. Stuart Bingham doing superbly well, out in the lead in the amateur category. Darragh Atkinson's in 6th place overall, 2nd place, and Chris van der Nesse 3rd position in those amateurs, as Broomfield just covering up the line into Ravazza. He's got Jones and Crouch right on his tail. Any amount of time really till Crouch makes this one, and Crouch was very quick in down the straights in race 1, but that damage on the front end of that car, and the rear end for that matter, might just negate that now.
Yep, and he didn't get a good run out of Ravazza because he was side by side with Jones, and that means that Thrain caught up a huge amount of time down that straight. He was able to carry all of the speed he liked out of that corner and gained a good few kilometers per hour through there. Side by side, someone's onto the gravel. That's Bandy, and all the way down to 17th he now goes, drops 2 positions, and he is not happy with Avanzini just in front. Oh, and maybe making contact. Just about avoiding it somehow. Is he going to send up the inside into Tosa? Yes, he does. He's done that a couple times already. Almost making contact. They are making contact. The door rubbing as they make their way out of Tosa. Now up the hill they go up towards turn 8, but they're really getting a little bit feisty between these two drivers, making contact left, right and centre.
Yeah, and you can tell sometimes with a battle when it gets personal, when the drivers all of a sudden go from not really caring about contact to, oh, bring it on. And I think it's getting to that point, because after a couple of doors to the doors, as you say, yeah, the tempers can rise, and we've got a bit of a queue forming here, honestly. I'm sure Matt Chambers will be able to escape from it. He should have the pace to pull away, but took the Avanzini and Bandit, 2 pro drivers. They should be able to pull away as well, but all this battling is really holding them up, and Banyan could be under pressure now from Becker, who is extremely quick. Becker, though, spins round. It's a very tricky curb there. He got a bit too much of it, and the 215, who was having such a brilliant race 1, such a brilliant meeting for that matter, drops to 23rd now.
And there might have been a bit of contact with the Ferrari in front of him, as yeah, that Ferrari went a little bit wide as well. As Aaron Powell in 18th. He's in a bit of a train himself. Someone's off in the background actually there. I'm not too sure who that was. One of the Performance League eSports drivers, I think. One of the BMWs. And, oh, I think it might have been Van der Nesse. Here is that man's teammate of Dave Chadwick heading through Tamburello. And I think it was Chris Van der Nesse there. He's down at 21st now.
So no one in the amateur category is having a clear night today. To be fair, anyone on the entire field is having a clear night. Everyone.
I'm just looking at thing behind, but as Sam was saying, yeah, no one really having a clean race, a clean event tonight at Imola. People trying to overtake where they shouldn't. Just drivers making mistakes. It's a very tricky circuit and very incident prone it's been tonight after around about 40 minutes of racing so far. 13 out of 40 minutes in this particular race. And Adrianson's lead Lee over around a second, 9/10 or so. But we've seen how quick Lee was last time out at Watkins Glen. And if I know him, he's going to try and catch up. He's already gained a couple tenths in this opening few corners of the circuit, but he's got Brown to watch out for as well. Brown having that penalty in race 1 and absolutely storming his way through the field in that first race. And yeah, he's got a reward. He's up into 3rd for the second race and putting pressure on the driver of Naili just in front. Yeah, and there's a nice old 11-second gap to Bush behind as well for good measure. So those three really don't have to worry about the drivers behind them. They can sort themselves out between them as Kevin Kittle has found himself in a bit of a train here.
It's pretty crazy the gap that they've got. I really didn't realise just how big that gap had risen. You know, Bush and Bingham, not so drivers, but just maybe the fact that they're kind of midfield drivers battling with one another, it has totally transformed the race, and of course the issues for the front runners in race 1. To be quite so far ahead. See Kitzelman in this long queue. It's Powell just at the front of it. So Powell is on the comeback. He's actually had a good few laps. He's up into 16th place. I think that's 6 places gained for him in the past 3 laps or so. So he's done well to get past all of them. And then we've got Nicholas Laubisch in there. And back to this train. They've all got the draft of one another, so we haven't seen a whole lot of overtaking so far, but I feel like this one's about to blow. It's like a volcano, and it's right brimming at the top right now, Dane.
Absolutely, and up the inside goes Bingham on Bush. Makes the move stick for now, but Bush is under a huge amount of pressure from Adrianson's behind. Getting pushed around the corner, Adrianson's had to actually back off, and he's now got Hutchinson for company. Look how close they all are. Heading through Villeneuve now. And in towards Tosa, are we going to see anyone send it up the inside? We are. And Adrianson's up the inside of Bush, gets that move done extremely quickly. Bingham has a little bit of breathing room now, around 7/10 worth. But yeah, he's going to try and extend that as much as possible through this middle sector, whilst the drivers behind are all battling. Up the inside goes Neumeier on Brumfield. And he's moved himself up into 8th now. And he's a huge train, this is, of these pro drivers, trying to work their way through the Anfield, and now they're trying to sort themselves up between each other because they have got that 12-second gap to the top 3, so there's not really much they can do in that sense, so they've just got to race between themselves at the moment.
Yeah, they've finishes in 4th place. It will feel like a race win. Because this is almost a separate race at the moment going on, because these guys are so far ahead. Danny Lee is under pressure here from Tom Brown. Brown was 3/10 faster, apologies, but I think Brown was considerably. Really thought Danny Lee, who honestly I think may have been the fastest driver last time out at Watkins Glen, he led in the early stages, got caught by Ampal, and at least from what I saw, really seemed as though he was losing out due to his straight line speed. The raceability of his Corvette, just the setup that he was running, really wasn't helping him whatsoever. He hasn't necessarily had the same pace tonight, but race win is right there for him. He won't get a much better opportunity this season, and so he really needs to grab it with both hands up. It's a poor race. Wants to fight that one. He's dropped 4 places in a couple of laps as David Bush. There's a few more to go still, but Neumar doing well. He could end tonight as the highest point scorer. Maybe he could even take. Comes Kittelman.
Yeah, almost onto the grass in towards what is turn 8. Now down the hill and towards Minerali, where we've seen a fair share of incidents into this sequence of corners. Really, really tricky Probably the trickiest on the circuit, because you're going over the curve on the inside, going down the hill into the compression zone, and always at the centre of the inside from Kittelman. Yes, it is. He cuts over the curve massively, and look at that, the Ferrari of Engelhardt is going to try and make it up the inside of both of them, and they're side by side, heading down into Rabatza now. Oh, a lock up.
Collins off. And we've seen a couple of mistakes down at Rabatza as well. Such a tricky corner, the track falling away from you very now, as is was most of this Imola circuit. And look at, this is Neumeier. He's got the bit between his teeth now. He's on the attack on Mark Hutchinson. He needs to get past Dara Adjinson as quick as possible. In fact, Dara Adjinson's and Bingham are very close. I think they're almost side by side into Villeneuve. I think that's what we're seeing. Hutchinson going for some alternative lines. There's the battle. He's going to go wide here, and this is the opportunity for Neumeier. Even Broomfield thinking that he has an opportunity here. This might turn out well for Hutchinson. I'm not quite sure how. He was about to compel to post there. Having to go around the outside at a couple of corners consecutively, but he is through, and that's a very important position. Bad news for him, Neumeier's going to get past straight away, and Broomfield's trying to take advantage, but he uses his brain and realises that probably a couple of corners time would be a better place.
Yeah, side by side through Aquaman Rally is never a good idea, but Neumeier really wasn't given much choice. He sort of had to go around there or slam on the brakes, really. He's the driver behind of Bingham, really slow out of turn 8. Oh, they're making contact on the left-hander out of turn 8. And somebody, I think it's Clark, has just been taken out. And into the wall, and he's made his way back to the pits now, taking the toe. And it's all gone poorly there. They're almost 4 wide heading into the outer. What is going on here in at the rear end of the top 30?
Oh, a good day for Clark by any means. He got taken out earlier on. And maybe another incident right there. But I think we might see a rare overtake into Rabatza here. Here we go. Wasting no time was Vin Glenn. Having a dreadful second race of the evening. Remember, he came second place in race 1. But absolutely nowhere in this race 2. And David Guy is a pretty quick driver. He might be able to come back, as we have now got a proper race for the win here. Had a terrific one at Watkins Glen. And sure got a good one here at Imola. Still half the race to go. But this is very much a three-way battle. They've continued to pull away. The gap is now up to 16 seconds. I've honestly never seen anything like this gap being formed by 3 drivers. And no disrespect to particularly Jens and Adjinson's 3 drivers who you wouldn't expect to be pulling away quite so significantly. But their pace has been phenomenal. They haven't been battling too much so far, but I think we might see some battling very soon.
Yeah, it's nearing the halfway point of the race for these guys, and yeah, they have got an extraordinary gap of 16 seconds, and the gap is still increasing between themselves and the other Adriansons for Indy Autosport. 3 out of the top 4 drivers are for Indy Autosport, so they're putting in a good showing, and yeah, really intriguing stuff going on out the front of the grid with Adjinson's, Lee and Brown. The other Adjinsons and Hutchinson separated by less than 0.2 of a second now as they make their way into Tamburello. Adjinson's on the inside trying to defend, hit the inside curb. Hutchinson's now might try and make something of that, isn't able to, and there is Neumeier trying to make something happen into Villeneuve now, going to the outside, and he's just having to back out of it for the moment, but you can expect that Neumeier is going to try and do everything he can to move up into 5th place. And there he goes, sends it hard up the inside into Toaster. They're still side by side on the exit. Neumeier can't get the move to stick.
No, he cannot quite do it at the moment. Still got time in this race, and they have got well, they've got Broomfield just behind who could challenge, and of course Crouch and Schlacker as well, the top drivers from the race 1. It's taken them a while, but they are getting to the front of this race 2 now, as Tom Collins is having to go off the circuit in order to try to take 21st place. It's Jude Becker who is ahead. Had that spin earlier on. It's taking a while to catch back up to the pack, but he is right there now. Aaron Powell driving brilliantly. He had a rubbish start, but he's up to 13th. He's just got past Craig Jones, who's 3rd place out of the amateur category, by the way. Doing an awesome job is Jones, as we've got a car off ahead.
Oh!
I'm not sure who that is. I think that might be a back marker there.
It is. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, Dominic Linton.
That's not what you want to be seeing when you're in the car heading through there and having a random car off the circuit. Oh, how close was that between Hutchinson and Brumfield? Still extremely close. He's side by side with Neumeier, who's just moved himself up into 5th, and Hutchinson just about holding on to 6th now, with Brumfield less than half a tenth behind him. Now trying to go around the outside. He's got the EvoSR teammate of Crouch and also Chambers just behind too. And Hutchinson, in the space of 4 corners, has gone from 5th down to 7th, trying to get ahead of the driver in 4th, and he just can't hold it around the outside. Oh, he's on the grass as well. That might let Crouch through.
It's very disappointing for him. All the EvoSR guys, and how close they've got to figure out who's going to go ahead here, and try not to lose any places while they're at it. But I think they are, because Stefan Schlacker has pulled off an absolute beauty there. Nothing between the 2 cars through Piratella, but Schlacker carrying great speed, and he's got ahead now of James Crouch. Matt Chambers, by the way, up 32 places from his starting position. Started down in 40th position, but he's up into 8th, and well, that is impossible. Jones into the wall for 3rd place in the AMS. Craig Jones, a very rare mistake from the SCCR Sim Sports driver.
Yeah, just
got another car round.
Sliding into the wall, and Adrianson's and Lee. Adrianson's really having to defend. Heading into Tamburello, Lee was looking dangerous into that first braking zone. Second braking zone coming up now. Lee all over the rear of Jensen Adrianson's. And yeah, this is really starting to get feisty up at the front, with not too long left in this race, in 15 minutes. And Brown's probably looking at this thinking, yes, go on, bat each other, let me catch up a little bit and get involved, or better yet, take each other off and hand me a 17-second lead over the rest of the field. However, these drivers are doing that just for them, extending that gap between themselves and the leader by going side by side into Tosa. Bush has done a great job of seeing Laubish up the inside there, and somebody has been sent around in a similar fashion to Lewis Hamilton in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix earlier this year.
Yeah, assuming he's got it out of the gravel, just as Lewis did on that occasion. And Laubish has got past Bush.
Oh, no.
Contact. Schlacker, and well, we've seen some brilliant moves into Acqua Minerale tonight, to be fair. That time, 2 did not go into 1. Schlacker up to 13th. You could see before just how much damage Laubish has got on that car. Been a war zone out there tonight. We've seen some terrific racing. But almost every car has got a scratch on it. These 3 so far haven't got that. I'd say so far with very much emphasis, because it's boiling over now. Lee, quite go for it. Lee, usually not the most aggressive overtaker. I would say that he used to be maybe a bit error prone, did Danny Lee, and I think maybe that changed his attitude to overtaking to be a bit more cautious. It served him very well last season. He scored top 10s in almost every round of the championship, but he may need to go for a bold overtake if he's going to win tonight.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy move, that's for sure. Bingham now trying to defend his top 10 position with Laubish behind. Laubish is definitely not a driver that you want behind you. He's made some extremely decisive overtaking moves, it's fair to say, throughout the couple of races so far. And around the outside of Tosa, he's trying to go. It won't work out for him on this occasion. Actually, never mind, it might just, as he ran all the way out over the AstroTurf. And it looks like he's ahead But is Bingham going to hold it down the inside into turn 8? He has done, but he just can't keep his nose in front, and Laubish up into the top 10 positions. And oh, Bingham's got Bush to worry about now as well. As you can see, massive BMW on that center console.
I'm amazed how quick Laubish was down the straight. I mean, I realised he got a good exit from Toaster, but you can see how the corners of that car are curved around. I've got a lot of scrapes in them, and yet still had the pace. Darrett Adkinson's with a mistake. Now he will stay in the lead of the amateur category, but all those places are gone. But you know what? That might not actually be the worst thing in the world. I mean, that's almost similar to what Drew Becker did in race 1. For Becker, it was very much deliberate. For Adkinson's, that was not deliberate, but he was probably going to lose those places anyway, and that might just reduce the risk of an incident. So not all bad for him. Chambers and Hutchinson also just changing places there. That may have been team orders, feeling like faster driver should go ahead. And it's 2x2 into the first chicane now. That is Schlecker up another pace. He's got past Bush, and did Laubish got past Bingham earlier on in the lap. So yeah, Laubish pulling away in 10.
Adkinson's went off the circuit at turn 8, running a little bit wide maybe, but look how close they are, and Brown up the inside of Lee. They make contact over Aqua Minerali, and Lee's going to have a slowdown from that as well. He'll be dropping back, and Adkinson's has just been given an 8-10th lead.
Where did that move come from? It was very polite up to that point, and then I'm going to overtake around the second part of Aqua Minerali. So it's now an Indy Autosport 1-2, and well, I wonder if I was going to speculate maybe it's a team game. I think Brown just wants to win the race, and he saw an opportunity to move up a place there, and so he took it. Yeah, Lee with the it didn't seem like it did get a slowdown, or at least it didn't cost him too much, because top 3 still separated by just over a second still. Gary in 25th. I think Glenn is just getting past Barenberg. Barenberg started from pole position, remember. Feels like an absolute eternity ago. So much has happened ever since. As Lee has got back past Brown, in fact, for second place. And, well, back comes Brown again. So he's into second position. So Lee couldn't come back.
We've got a replay of what happened in the background. Yep, both Lee and Adkinson's running wide there. Adkinson's running exceptionally wide. They're side by side, and Brown was like, "Oh, if you're going to go side by side through the first part and go a bit slowly, I'll just send it up the inside of the second part of the corner, and I'll take that second position. Thank you very much." And yeah, really bold move there. I definitely would have backed out of that one, but no, not Tom Brown. He said, "Yeah, I didn't get the best result in race 1. I want this good result in race 2, and we've just been watching off the main feed. Kevin Kittleman going side by side with Bush, and around the outside of Villeneuve he's gone. What a move for Kevin Kittleman.
That was a very good move. Apologies for my it was a very natural because Kittleman did make contact with someone down into the first chicane, and very much sent them up. I'm not sure who it was. We'll may have a look back at that one. It's such a massive slide to Bingham. We saw the drivers, particularly Danny Lee 2 weeks ago, sliding at the end of the 80-minute race. We completed half that distance, barely a third of it. And already a little bit of sideways as Broomfield has come together there with is that Matthews, the back marker?
It might be, and you can see he's looking all over the place, possibly going to make a pit stop. He's got a bit of damage there to his car, and does not look like the easiest car to wheel around the circuit. Driver in front of him going for a pit stop as well. But it was Matthews. Crouches into the pits. I'm not sure what that must be. Track limits. Must be a penalty there.
18 instance.
So he does have a penalty, and he'll just make his way through. He's doing a bit of a sneaky here as well, as you can see. He's not taking the proper route through the pit lane. He's cutting through the pit boxes because it's a curved pit lane here, and he's taking the racing line through there instead of the proper ones. We see Avanzini getting overtaken by Becker, and Becker now up into 16th, but a bit of a sneaky one from Crouch, taking the racing line through the pit lane.
Unfortunately, in real life, there's usually people there, which very much restricts the pace that you can take that line. But in the sim racing world, or at least in iRacing to be honest, no pit stalls waiting, and so yeah, you can just make a beeline through the pit lane. So did ARL have a bit of an issue, because I think he was up to 15th place a while back, honestly, but just having a bit of a setback, not quite sure. But anyway, he's with Chris Bandanese, and Matt Chambers trying to hold off his teammate Mark Hutchinson. They did change places, I believe, 2 laps ago. Hasn't really turned out maybe how they'd wanted, or maybe it's working out brilliantly. Maybe Chambers is actually pulling along Hutchinson at the moment, and this is all going to plan, but it seems like the two of them are very evenly matched. They've got Dan Adjinsons with them. This battle, as can be understood due to the attrition rate we've had tonight, very much separating. Now, at one point we had 4th down to 15th all in a train. It's kind of just these 3 remaining now for this battle for 5th position, with Michael Neumeyer 5 seconds further up the road.
It's always good to see the drivers in their rigs in the webcam feeds. Just having a look at Matt Chambers there in his rig, also using virtual reality headset. Last time out was a particularly hot evening in the UK, and he told me that he's got a massive fan. Just off the camera, but a huge fan that faces to him, and that is a brilliant idea, something that I don't have, which is a shame because I get very hot when I'm racing. But he has that, and it keeps him nice and cool as he races. They are really fun racing in VR. What's also really fun is battling for the lead with a 20-second gap behind you, and that's exactly what Jensen Adriansons, Danny Lee, and Tom Brown are busy doing. But it's like Adriansons has gapped them a bit throughout, and Lee is right on the back of Brown and almost looking for a move into Ravazza. Look at how deep they went on the brakes into Ravazza, both of them trying to defend and attack respectively, and it's giving Adjinsons a little bit of a gap. There's only 5 minutes left in the race, remember, so they do have to get their moves done quickly, and Lee right now possibly costing Brown a look at a win.
Danny Lee, I think, well, we could see a change of position, a great straight line speed. Wasn't there. Danny Lee loves this series, like that. I think he's absolutely tired of it and wants to leave it right now, because he had such a frustrating Watkins Glen race where he had the pace to win, but couldn't make the important overtakes, and right now he is not being able to do the same thing in this race either. It's still good points for him, but he just absolutely adored to get that race win under his belt if he could. Tom Collins has just been overtaken, I think, by Craig Jones there. Well, I think they're all just getting past the back marker. To be fair, Colin McKenzie has just got past Vadim Petrov. That's for 29th position. You can see these drivers are pretty much a lap down. They are a lap down. The first drivers 1 lap down. 29th and 30th positions at the moment. Lunatic Racing versus Shenandoah Shine. As we enter the final few laps of this race, I think it should just be 2 more to go after this one.
Chambers holding on nicely there in 5th. Neumeyer on fire, it must be said. He's gained about 4 seconds on the top 3. Yes, they've been fighting. Adjinsons hasn't particularly been in that much of a battle. It's really been Lee and Brown for the most part. But Neumeyer, he's gained 5 seconds on Chambers, and he's gained 4 seconds on the drivers in front over the last few laps. And oh, look at this, Lee on the grass on the inside trying to make something happen, but really good defensive driving from Tom Brown, giving him absolutely nowhere to go. Brown probably just wants to try and have a go at his teammate instead of having to look behind him and worry about Danny Lee behind for the next 3 minutes of the race. And Adjinson's probably loving the fact that he's keeping his teammate occupied.
Yeah, and that was maybe the move that Lee had to make if he was going to win this race. He can certainly still get 2nd place. Even if this was on the last lap, I think he could still get 2nd place. But the race win, passing 2 cars, is going to be very tricky. Avanzini is serving a penalty at the moment, so many drivers are right on the limit of incidents. If you get 16 incidents, then you do get a drive-through penalty. I don't recall it being a particularly big issue at Watkins Glen, even though that race was twice as long. Tonight, though, it has really caught out many drivers, as that's a huge slide for Atkinson's, and that might leave him vulnerable on the exit. He's actually carried a very good amount of speed, to be fair, but this is as close as Brown has been all race long, and probably going on to the last lap of the race now. He's got to probably get the move done into turn 1.
He's got to try it, but as close as he is to Atkinson's in front, Daniel Lee is closer to him. And they're basically all separated by 0.3 of a second now, heading down the back straight. He's going to get the double draft, but I don't think it's going to be enough for anyone to make a move. He's not close enough, and the Corvette just has the straight line speed advantage. That's a back marker coming out of the pits at possibly the worst time possible for Tom Brown. And is he going to send it up the inside? No, he's not, and that might just be it for these 3 drivers. Look how close Lee is, though. He might have something to say about that. Possibly not into Villeneuve, but if he can pressure Brown enough and make him force him into a mistake, he might send up the inside into Tosa, but I think he's just about too far back. He's going to try anyway, but he's not going to be able to send it up the inside. Oh, Atkinson's is a bit wide there. That might allow Brown to do something about that, but oh no, he's just not close enough. There's just nowhere for him to go, and it'd have to be another mistake from Atkinson's in order for him to keep the lead. Running all sorts of wide there at the end there, a bit cheeky.
Yeah, I think if you go wide enough, you can get a slow down there, but well, it's good that he's got that those 1Xs to spare. He can afford to pick up a couple and not get a drive through penalty. Brown looks aggressive. He is darting every which way, trying to put his teammate off, but Jensen Atkinsons has not made a mistake throughout this race, and it looks as though he might be able to take his first ever Apex Racing League GT win. Remember, he's the amateur champion from last season, but rarely gets in the top positions, honestly. But tonight at Imola, he has driven absolutely superbly, and from second on the grid, he is going to take first on the track. Jensen Atkinsons for Indy Autosport wins at Imola. That is a surprise win, but it is a win a long time coming. Brown finishes in second place, Lee with another frustrating result, but it is good points for the championship, and Neumeyer and Chambers in 4th and 5th. Darragh Atkinsons is going to make it an amazing night for the Atkinsons brothers and for Indy Autosport, because he finishes top of the amateur drivers, with seemingly Brown and Van der Nesse rounding out that amateur podium. Well, I long odds for that race 2 result, honestly, there, Dane, but what a good race we had.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a shame we couldn't get more overtaking up at the front, but they just defended so well between the 3 of them that yeah, it was proving difficult, but really good stuff watching some of the drivers that took that reverse grid. Massive reverse grid, 23 cars, so some of the drivers getting sent to the back of the grid almost. Doing really well to make their way up through the field. Neumeyer in 4th after all of that, doing a really good job to make his way up from, I believe, 21st on the grid. So yeah, lots of overtaking happening there. It was maybe a bit of an incident-filled race. We did see quite a few drivers going off. Not as much contact as I would have expected, but more drivers just making their own mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's the case. That really, this track being difficult for the drivers, much more difficult than it seemed than Watkins Glen. That is just the nature of this Imola track. Of course, if you enjoyed that race, I'm sure you did. Do make sure to subscribe to Apex Racing TV. Leave a like as well on the video, and also check out our Twitch channel as well. Got a bit lower latency, so the live timing works even better over on that platform. And also check us out as well on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram as well, where you can see lots of highlights from each of our races and constant updates as to what is happening in the Apex Racing TV world. We're going to show you a little bit of a short trailer now, but yeah, we'll be back once again just in a moment on Apex Racing TV. once again to Apex Racing TV, and very much thanks to Apex Racing Academy as well for sponsoring the championship. Here are the results then from the second race of the evening, and what a second race it was, honestly. I've commentated on quite a few of these races, probably about 50 of them or so. That's got to rank up in the top 3 or 4. That was absolutely amazing to watch. Jensen Adjensons takes his first race win in the series, I believe his first race win in Apex Racing League history, and he's done his fair share of races as well, so awesome to see him finally get onto the top step of the podium. Tom Brown finishing in second place in the end, quite an improvement from starting from the pits, of course, in race 1. Danny Lee finishes in third place after disappointing race 1, and Michael Newmeyer, I believe, is the highest point scorer tonight. That's really going to help him in the championship after a second place, of course, back at Watkins Glen. Matt Chambers beat Mark Hutchinson in the end to the line, and Dara Adjinson's managed to take the amateur race win. Nicholas Laubich had a tumultuous round, but a couple of decent results up in the top 10. I think he'll take that one. Stephen Broomfield was in 9th place, then it was Kevin Kitzelman. Tom Bingham was 2nd place out of the Amazon, and really did a terrific job as well at defending in the early stages. Aaron Powell had a problematic start and an issue, I believe, midway through the race after his race 1 win, but he should still be at the top of the championship heading into meeting 3 of the season. David Bush finishes in 13th place. Chris Van Den Nesse gets another podium in the amateur category in 14th place overall. Then it was Drew Becker, Craig Jones, James Crouch, Dave Chadwick was in 18th position, and in 19th was Dave Chadwick was in 18th. Then it was Vin Glenn after his second place in race 1. Tom Collins was in 20th, then it was Chris Prescott, John Tressida, David Gowrie, James Koulibaly, Stefan Schlacker, who was having an awesome race in the early stages, but he had a dreadful second half of the race. Elliot Barenberg started from pole and ended up being the last driver who didn't go a lap down. Thomas Avanzini needed to serve a drive-through penalty for breaching the instant limit, as did several other drivers. Colin McKenzie was in 28th. Then it was Vadim Petrov, Miguel Beltran, Justin Ray, Jack Tingy, Nicholas Matthews, Dominic Linden, Nikolai Thrain, Christian Engelhardt, Regis Clark, Max Bandian, Vincenzo Tiamina. Emil Vinbo did not finish once again, so a real disappointing race for him. So too did Burke and Rogers in the end. So yeah, disappointing night for a few drivers there. Dane, just due to the high attrition rate. I mean, they do get a faster pair, but still, that wasn't enough to keep many drivers in the race.
Yeah, lots of drivers ending up in the wall or into each other. Yeah, lots of contact in the race. A lot of drivers just making their own mistakes. As I said earlier, just clipping the grass in places, hitting the curb in the wrong way. Yeah, really very odd from the drivers, especially since most of them managed to make it a full 80 minutes at Watkins Glen. A couple of drivers also making their way down to the pit lane for a penalty, which we didn't see at all, I don't think, at Watkins Glen. But yeah, the drivers just not able to keep it in between the white lines.
Yeah, it was a challenge out there tonight for the drivers. By the way, another shout out to Wave Italy for being the title sponsor for this season of the Apex Racing League GT Championship. Wave Italy really with the aim of conveying the thrill of a real race to the simulator world, and that kind of goes into their philosophy on everything. You can check out some awesome videos on their website, kind of detailing their Verona base where they can train drivers, and also their peripherals as well, specifically designed to recreate the real-life racing thrill. So massive thanks to Wave Italy, and thanks for them for providing some awesome prizes, a half day of training at their training base for the amateur championship winner, and also a choice of Wave Impetus Imola or Wave Impetus Monza sim pedals as well for the pro drivers. We are going to have a chat straight away with our race winner in race 2, and what I believe, Jensen, is your first ever race in Apex Racing League history. You must be delighted right now.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. I had a bunch of bad luck in the qualifying. I didn't get a lap, and in race 1 I spun and was at the back of the field at lap 2. So to be on the top step of the podium in the end is really good for me. I'm really happy.
You were under a lot of pressure. I mean, you had Danny behind you from pretty much lap 2 of the race, I think. I mean, he's one of the best drivers in the series. I mean, at that point, did you have confidence in your pace that you could potentially keep him behind for the whole race?
At first my plan was to I was expecting him to fly by and just try to stay with him, but when I saw I could keep him behind me a bit, I changed the plan and I was just going in full defense and pushing as hard as I could to try and get the win. So it worked out in the end.
And in the closing stages, it seemed like an interesting race between yourself and Tom because obviously, you know, a 1-2 was on the cards there, but Tom was pretty aggressive out there. I mean, was it gloves off for you two, or was there a bit of team orders in play?
No, we were just there were no team orders in the final lap. I think he tried to move as well on me. But he just didn't have the straight line speed to get past. We did say to each other, I said that I wasn't gonna just let him by because we're this far in the race and fighting for the lead. So it was just a battle, just try to keep it fair between teammates and try to get the 1-2 if we can. So no team orders, but fair racing, I think, between us.
Of course, you're the defending amateur champion. I guess the next step up is to win the Pro Championship. But what are your goals for this season? Because I'm sure a race win would have been there at the start of the season, and you've now achieved that. I mean, what's next?
Yeah, for sure. A race win was already one of the goals, and I've been just doing a lot more practice than when I was still in the M category. I usually didn't do a lot of practice because I didn't have so much time due to school, but now I finished school, so I will have more time to practice, and who knows, if it goes well all season, maybe I can be in the top 5 of the championship or maybe even higher, but we'll see the season. I'll have to keep up the pace.
Right, certainly an excellent start to the championship. Jensen, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thanks to the team and Drew Beggar because he put up a lot of practice sessions to practice together. So thanks to them for the support.
Awesome. Well, congrats once again, Jensen. We'll see you back in a week's time.
Yeah, thank you. See you next week.
So there was your race 2 winner tonight, Jensen Adkinson's. A very satisfying race when I'm sure everyone will be happy. That's about that result. Dane, who are we going to have a talk to next?
Well, I guess the next place to go would be Tom Brown, because of course he did end up finishing second in the second race of today. So let's get him in here for a chat. And Tom, well, congratulations on second place today. You had it all to do with that penalty that you had starting from the pit lane, and you did a pretty good job out there to end up on the podium at the end.
Yeah, it's been good pace at Imola, and obviously I've swapped cars for this round from the Ford to the Porsche, which I'll stick with for the rest of the season. But going into the race, I knew I had decent race pace. Been doing a lot of testing with the Indy Autosport guys. They've been really good to test with all week. And then I was just desperate to get to somewhere within the reverse grid in race 1, and luckily sort of stayed out of all the trouble and got there.
Absolutely. So you ended up starting from the pit lane in race 1. I guess finishing in the second race was probably never on your mind when you ended up starting from the pit lane. You're probably just hoping to get as far up the field as possible. But talk through the mindset, because I know a lot of drivers struggle when they end up starting so far down the order. How are you thinking of getting past all of the drivers in front, especially at the start of the race when everyone was all bunched up and the slower drivers? Was it difficult to try and get past them, especially at Imola, where it's not exactly the easiest place to go side by side through some places?
Yeah, and especially with the Porsche as well, the Porsche does struggle with straight line speed, so it makes it even more tricky. But you just got to go into the race and be patient. There was a few times where you realise you're losing a lot of time behind some of the slower drivers, but you just got to pick your moments, make sure you overtake them without losing too much time, so then you can press on once you get past and go to the next driver and just do it one by one.
Well, we've gone to Watkins Glen and Imola. Up next is a brand new circuit to iRacing, Red Bull Ring. Have you done much driving there? I know a lot of drivers haven't even bought it yet in the series. What are your thoughts on the Austrian circuit?
So I know the track, but I haven't purchased it yet. So I do need to do some testing this week. The nice thing is as well is that there's no made setups for anyone, so everyone's got to work on a setup as well. So that's another element that will be introduced. But yeah, I like the track from playing it on other games and simulators. So yeah, let's see how we get on.
Absolutely, and heading through the rest of the season, some brilliant circuits on there. If you could take your pick of one circuit that you would wish to visit for the rest of the season, say all 9 rounds that are remaining, or 10 rounds that are remaining in the season, if you could visit just one of the circuits, which one would it be? Oh,
Suzuka all day long. Love the track. Sector 1 is amazing. It's a true track in that there's not really anywhere you can run wide. There's, you get punished with grass or gravel. And I'm visiting there as well. It's definitely the best track that I've ever visited to watch at as well.
Oh, that's an interesting answer. I've never had Suzuka as being one of the drivers' favourite circuits. Well, Tom, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on the 2nd place. A fantastic result for you there. Good luck for the next race at Red Bull Ring. But before we let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, big shout out to the family. They watch every weekend. They're loving it as always. And obviously the Indie Autosport guys, it's been great to join a team. I wasn't with a team at the start of last season, and they picked me up, and it's really encouraged me and got me into iRacing even more, and obviously joining the ARL guys as well. So it's great.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week at the Red Bull Ring.
Perfect. Cheers.
It was great to hear from Tom Brown there, and Sam, you're standing by with the next driver for an interview. Who have you got lined up next?
We're going to have a chat with Daniel Lee. There's a bit of a theme with these drivers who want to have an interview with us. The race 1 guys, who finished at the top, not too happy, I think, maybe with the race result, but the race 2 guys, very happy to have a chat with us. I'm sure you'd have a chat with us either way, to be honest, Daniel, because I imagine you're not delighted with that result. I mean, not a great race 1, and then I felt like a little bit like Watkins Glen, a bit of a frustrating race 2. You had the pace to win, but one thing happened and then another thing happened, and you just fell a little bit short.
Yeah, race 1 was one of those, it gave me one of those rare moments where on the run up to turn 1, Kev Kittleman kind of squeezed me onto the grass. I assumed he had a car to the right of him, but it was just probably one of them squeezes. It was a bit too much, and that sent one tyre on the grass, and then just sheer panic. Deer in headlights, sailing straight towards the lead pack to turn 1, and that is the last thing you want to do. And the brakes were just stuck on. The car was sliding, tyres are screeching, smoke in the rearview mirror. I thought, we've really done it now. We're going to look like idiots here. But thankfully, I just skimmed the back of Mark Hutchinson's Ford GT and managed to get out alive. But the car was a little bit squirrely after that. But if I've learnt one thing, it's just pick yourself up, get to the line, because you don't know where you're going to get for reverse grid. You can pick up places, especially at Imola, which seems to be hell-bent on making people go off track, spin round, whatever, as you probably saw. With loads of people going off.
Yeah, what is it about the track? What makes it so tricky?
Well, the traffic calming measures, in my opinion, they completely ruin what would be a brilliant track otherwise. You can't go side-by-side in chicanes, really, because if one of you puts a tyre on a sausage on the inside, it basically robs your front end of any grip, and it sends you into the car that's on the outside. So Thomas Avanzini, who I kind of took out in race 1, if those traffic calming measures weren't there, the little sausages, if they weren't there, it would have been a pretty good battle and a clean pass for one of us. But it's all the little bits that they've done to modernise the track, and in iRacing's version, they're really lethal. So I hope they eventually go.
And next up, we've got the Red Bull Ring. We visited there in GT Trophy, but I'm not sure if you were around for that round. So have you actually got any experience around the track?
Yeah, I took part in GT Trophy earlier in the week, but it only lasted about 5 laps because of just a consequence of events, people sending it up there, and in the end the car was just knackered and there's no fun. kind of trailing behind the pack with no pace either, so I had to park it. But in the 10 laps or so I've done the Red Bull Ring, it's a beautiful track. It should lend itself much better to the GTEs because they're much quicker, got more aero. So I'm really hoping that it will result in good racing there.
Awesome. Well, best of luck for that one, Danny. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just well done, Indie Autosport, Tom Brown and Jensen Adriansons for basically doing the perfect team 1-2. They really looked after each other out there and it was impossible to pass them. So good job to them. I didn't have enough. Shout out to you guys for the league and the broadcast and to the grid for some good racing today.
So, well, thanks for having a chat with us, Danny, and we'll see you on Tuesday then, I guess.
So we'll have to see on that one. House move means that basically all plans are up in the air, but we'll have a look and see.
Awesome. Hope to see you then. Danny Lee there, your third place finisher in race 2 and 15th place in race 1, but should still be in the top 5 in the championship after tonight's meeting. I think we've got one time for one more interview, Dane.
Yes, we do. We've got Mr. Matty Chambers, who is going to kindly join us in the commentary booth for a quick chat. And we do have him now. And Matt, you did finish in 5th position out there in the second race today. A pretty good finish for yourself, 35 places gained. So you had lots to do in the 40-minute race.
Yeah, I think I saw a lot of death today. So first race, I had such good pace as well. I was like really optimistic about this race, and race 1 ended badly straight away. But it was like a bit of a netcode between me and Michael, and then I think I got hit by Emil on the exit of turn 3, and I was like, I started circulating the track, thinking I'll keep going, and I was running 35th with reverse grid 23rd, and I did the stupid thing of just giving up, chucked in the towel. I saw like my teammates were. I thought we got good team points, but I think if I carried on, I might have been in position to have reverse grid pole. So that's quite a big regret today. Yeah, and then race 2 starting in 40th position. I think the first corner I didn't even attempt to make the corner. I saw so much carnage that I thought I'd just give up there, cut the corner, avoid all the carnage, and it paid dividends in the end because I just picked my way through the carnage for the next 3-4 laps and started moving my way up towards 5th.
Yeah, you had a lot to do in the second race. A lot of carnage to avoid. There were quite a few incidents in the first couple of laps. It must have been a little bit sketchy trying to make your way through some of them, especially in some of the tighter sections of the circuit.
Yeah, I remember there was one that really got me scared. It was coming like out of the little fiddly chicane towards the end of the lap, and there was 2 spinners on the outside, and one of them, I don't know if he meant to put it in reverse, but he put it in first gear and suddenly moved forward a little bit as I was coming past him. Yeah, that scared me a little bit, but other than that, after that, there weren't too many close calls. You could sort of see them before they happened, type of thing. After that, yeah, it was a fun race. Good recovery drive.
Absolutely brilliant recovery drive, and yeah, good pool of points in 5th place. Up next, Red Bull Ring, brand new track to the iRacing service. A lot of drivers haven't bought the circuit yet. Have you done many laps there, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I bought the track on week 13 and tried out the new Porsche GT3 around there, and I really like the track. It seems quite a fun track to drive, and it should be quite good for overtaking as well. It's got quite. Hopefully, it'll be a lot more fun than the Formula 1 was today. Basically, we can only hope.
Yeah, we can only hope that it was a bit better than the F1 race. Maybe hope that it's a bit more like the races from last season at the Red Bull Ring. Those races were brilliant, but yeah, maybe not so much today. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us for an interview. And I've just noticed on the overlay that it says interview shorts wearer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely boiling still. I might just go completely clothless next time, but I won't be able to stream the webcam.
Oh dear. Yes, if you're going to do that, please don't share the webcam. That would be that would be terrible. Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on the 5th place. Good luck for Red Bull Ring in a week's time. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to? Yeah,
so obviously you guys putting on a good show again. And and then all the Evo guys, because we put in quite a lot of practice for this race. We've done a lot of setup work, so all the Evo guys were chipping in a little bit. I think we ended up with about 6 versions of the same setup. So yeah, it worked out well. So thanks to those guys for chipping in. We all sort of got on in different hours. Yeah. So you guys in Evo.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you in a week.
Cheers. See you later.
And it's great to hear from Matty Chambers there as well. And Sam, that pretty much wraps up the interviews for this round, and we've got to look forward to the next round of the series. I think it's going to be a fantastic round.
Well, GT Trophy was really good, but it's quite an extreme circuit in terms of kind of the pace down the straights. You need kind of low downforce stuff, and so we could perhaps see quite an extreme race where maybe there's 1 or 2 cars which really have an advantage over the others when it comes to that race, because yeah, if you've got good top end speed around that place, and I guess good acceleration as well out of the slow speed corners, then you're going to have a field day.
Yeah, it should be a good place for overtaking. You've got it's mostly pretty wide out there. You've got turn 3, which is really tight, the super tight right-hand hairpin. Great for sending it up the inside, but in a similar way to the hairpin at Hockenheimring, it's quite difficult to hold it side by side without slowing each other up massively. So it is definitely going to be an interesting race. Well, 2 races over there. I think we should see a lot of overtaking. Side by side should be possible everywhere. Track limits on the last couple of corners are a bit iffy. You can run extremely wide with the way that the new 4-tyre off-track system works that iRacing have brought out for this season's build. It is going to be pretty interesting with the track limits there. A couple drivers maybe having to go down the pit lane, as we saw here at Imola, for a drive-through penalty with those 1x penalties. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting round. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good one.
I know that you're an expert with the track limits. Can drivers just go miles off the track at turn 1, lap 1, or will they get a slowdown for that?
I haven't actually checked if there's a slowdown, but I know at the final couple of corners, the track limits are, I don't know how much you know about how the circuit looks, but with the green curbs on the outside, you can run a single tire on those and all 3 other tires off the circuit completely and off the curbs, and you're still good. So there's quite a lot of off-track area that you can run on, especially like here at Imola. You've got some of the corners in a similar way where you can have a lot of wheels off the actual racing surface or off the tarmac and still be good in terms of track limits. But turn 1 will be interesting because you've got that big yellow sausage curb on the outside, so drivers might not want to be running over that particularly often because yeah, that could give you a bit of floor damage, just like the ones here at Imola.
Yeah, because that will be brought to you on Apex Racing TV, on our YouTube and on our Twitch channels. Same time next week. It will be at 17 GMT, after maybe you've watched the second race at Austria, the Austrian Grand Prix. I think the hype will be quite high for that one, and with the caliber of drivers we've got for this season, these first couple of meetings of this Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship have really offered us an insight into what could be an absolutely classic season to come up. Very much thanks for tuning in tonight. Please do leave a like on this video and check out our social media page as well, because with 1 year on Apex Racing Academy and also 1,000 subscribers as well, there are a few giveaways. So if you head over to the Apex Racing Academy social media accounts, then you can find details for that. It's pretty easy to get all the credits that you need. You don't necessarily need to share stuff to your friends, albeit we would certainly appreciate you could do that. But just by following all of the platforms, you stand a chance at getting a 1 year free subscription for Apex Racing Academy, and that could be for a gold, silver or bronze membership. So it's certainly worth giving it a go, and of course do check out all of that. And also of course big thanks as well to Wave Italy, the title sponsor for this championship. I've been Sam Fitzpatrick. I've been joined alongside by Dane Baird, Lee Thompson, and Sam Kume have been working in the background on the production side of things. We are going to say goodbye for now, and we will see you next time at the Red Bull Ring for round 3 of the championship. See you then.